Hello there, YouTube. It is your boy B3, back to another kicking graphic novel review. Today we're looking at Batman 66 Volume 3. I know the last Batman 66 video was like over 40 minutes long. I'm going to try not to do that this time, but no guarantees. I'm a huge Batman 66 fan. Anyway, quick read up at the back of the book. Go Bat or go home. When Arkham Asylum stages a talent show to help rehabilitate its inmates, will a dastardly duet between the Joker and Catwoman give the clown prince of crime the last laugh on the dynamic duo? Also, when that bejeweled baddie Marcia, Queen of Diamonds, goes drilling for her biggest score yet, will she stumble across the greatest treasure of all, the secret location of the Batcave? When the technological titan known as a Bat Robot swoops in to electronic action, will it make crime obsolete? Or will Batman and Robin find themselves trampled beneath the march of progress? When the Caped Crusader's crime-fighting charisma inspires a television show depicting his astounding adventures, will he fall victim to the most dangerous enemy of all? Bad publicity? Don't touch that dial. The answers to these riddles and more are all in Batman 66 Volume 3, the latest collection of stories inspired by the classic Batman TV series, featuring contributions by Crusading creators Jeff Parker, Jonathan Case, Art Batlazar and France, Ted Nafia, Gabe Soria, Dean Haspel, and more from DC Comics. And there's no rating on the back, but I would say this book is safe for pretty much all ages. A little violent, but if you're fine with that as a parent, go for it. I also think these were digital firsts that were eventually collected into physical collections. Just keep that in mind. But the first one's called The Joker's Big Show. It's a Joker-Catwoman team-up, and the Catwoman in it is Julie Newmar. Typically, whenever they make new 66 Batman stuff, they always go with Julie Newmar Catwoman. There might be a reference to different actresses playing Catwoman, like in the Batman Caped Crusader animated film, which I love and is excellent, and you should watch it if you're a fan of 66 Batman. But they typically use Julie Newmar because she played Catwoman for 2 out of 3 seasons, and then Eartha Kitt played her for 1 season, and then I don't even remember the name of the actress from the movie. Sorry. I also respect that, I didn't mention this in the last one, but whenever they draw Joker, they always give him hair on his upper lip, because Cesar Romero refused to shave his mustache for the role because he thought he wouldn't be a sex symbol anymore without it. Very secure. But they just painted over it in the show, and they translate that to the art in this, which I think is really nice. But we see like Dr. Harley Quinn in Arkham Asylum. We've kind of just gone from prison to asylum. The asylum isn't really much of a thing in the show, but that is where everyone is sent in the comic now. But we see like a talent show where we see a lot of villains showcase different things, including the Siren, who, you know, I didn't expect to see. And Falseface does a great Eggman impression, and Joker does stand-up comedy that's not super great, but everyone's laughing so hard that he and Catwoman are able to escape, and it turns out it's because Catwoman has been letting a laughing agent into the room. But then Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, and Barbara Gordon all exit with very convenient excuses, and then Batman, Robin, and Batgirl show up almost immediately after. And you can see, like, after everyone leaves, Gordon and Chief O'Hara are there, and they're like, well, guess we better look for clues or something, I guess. And then all the heroes show up, and they're like, oh, thank God, we don't have to do our jobs. But we see a lot of also, like, side characters in this volume from like very specific episodes of Batman 66 that I honestly never really thought we'd see again, which is kind of insane, to be completely honest. Anyhow, it turns out Joker stole a device that they were trying to use to make him sane. And the Joker is going to use it for the opposite effect, to kind of make everyone in Gotham insane, which is pretty wild. And it turns out that Dr. Harleen Quinzel, has been helping him. She thought she was kind of making the world a better place. She thought she was helping reform the Joker. Turns out she was not. He was manipulating her, and so she turns against him and takes his machine and uses it to take the insanity that Joker has projected onto Gotham. And this is actually a really cool Harley Quinn origin. She takes that insanity, reverses the machine, puts it all in herself. So she saves Gotham by driving herself insane. This wholly selfless act that is her trying to fix a problem she helped create. And it creates... It drives her insane and creates the super villain Harley Quinn. Oh my god, what a cool Harley Quinn origin. Absolutely incredible Harley Quinn origin. But yeah, the Joker's making people insane, and then Catwoman's basically picking all their pockets. That's their goal. Also, in this volume, Batgirl pretty much acts as Robin the whole time, and she kind of steps on... Like, Robin is a background figure almost in this whole book, and that's like clearly intentional. It's almost the joke. But I didn't feel like that super worked well. But incredible Harley Quinn origin. Really cool. We don't actually see Harley Quinn do anything in this other than be created. But hey, what you gonna do? We of course find out that there are some diamond thieves running around, and it's of course Marcia, Queen of Diamonds. And they do, in fact, make a Brady Bunch joke. Every time I see her in the show, I'm like, so is there gonna be a Brady Bunch joke? Nope, no Brady Bunch joke. But Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. They finally delivered that line in this. Really amazing. And to me, Marcia, Queen of Diamonds is actually a pretty boring villain. I'm not a fan of her, but I am a fan of her aunt, who was like a chemist that was expelled from being a professor, and she became like a witch. I love that woman. Insanity. But they build this drill, and it has a sensor on it that leads them to the Bat Diamond, which means they enter the Bat Cave. But their big drill machine doesn't have a map or anything on it, so they don't know where they are. They just drove straight from their hideout to the Bat Cave because they had a sensor that could detect the diamond. And they find the bat poles, but they don't go up because they think the bat poles might enter into the police station, which, to be honest, is actually not the dumbest thing to assume. Like, I understand that. I get why she thought that. Or I get why her henchman thought that. He's really the one with the brain. There's like one henchman who's just like really smart. But yeah, so they don't figure out that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are Batman and Robin respectively. Oddly enough. But they close the tunnel behind them so Batman and Robin can't follow them back to their hideout. But of course, Batman and Robin open up the tunnel and follow them back to their hideout, where they have to fight these mutant sea monkey serpents. Welcome to 66 Batman. You gotta love it. Then we get another story where Bruce Wayne is robbed, and the only thing they steal is the Shakespeare bust, which, to be honest, I didn't even know could come up off the table. I guess it controls the Batcave remotely. But apparently, without that bust, they can't get into the Batcave at all. They don't have access to the Bat computer or the Batmobile, because the Batmobile is the only way they can get into the outside entrance, and they don't have access to the Bat computer or anything. But they have old, quote-unquote, prototype suits, which to me kind of look like the suits from one of the serials, but they could be like test footage suits, early actual prototype suits from the show. It feels like it's some kind of reference that I don't fully, entirely understand. But here's the thing. The Minstrel, a villain that most, I'm sure, have forgotten. He's like a tech genius, but also a musician. And he has this device called the Decomposer, objectively excellent name, that when it senses the Batmobile, will destroy the Batmobile and Batman and Robin. But the Batmobile is locked in the Batcave because he stole the Shakespeare bust to lure them in. So they drive like an old-timey Batmobile in, like kind of a first appearance of the Batmobile kind of Batmobile. Because when Batman first came out, he just had like a red car. He didn't he didn't have a Batmobile. But like an old-timey kind of Batmobile and stuff. It was really kind of a self-indulgent short story about references. The next story is about a TV show being made about Batman and Robin. The ad for which looks like Batman the Animated Series, but then they watch the show and it's very Frank Miller-esque. It's got some Dark Knight Returns kind of feel to it, but it feels more like Sin City, like a hard detective drama. I get kind of a Sin City feel from it. I admittedly haven't read Sin City, but that's the impression of what I get with it. It was kind of like. But Batman and Robin kind of end up not liking this portrayal of them because they're law-abiding citizens. And the Batman in this show, well, he breaks the law. But it turns out the guy making the movie, or not the movie, the show, is Falseface. And he ends the show with one final episode, which is supposed to be like the execution of the real Batman and Robin. But they end up fighting him and stuff. And the lighter Batman in the finale turns out to be the one that gets the highest ratings. And Falseface even gets an award for the show while he's in prison. The next show, you have the Clock King stopped by the Batbot, which you can buy a figure of from McFarlane Toys, even though I don't think it's near the right size, because this is a pretty big robot. Actually, throughout the comic, the size of the robot seems to kind of change. It's not always the same. There is a very inconsistent size. We see it fight Louis the Lilac. I always liked Louis the Lilac. I thought he didn't get enough attention as villain. He was a late villain, season 3 only. So he didn't get as big a stories as some other villains, or as many stories as other villains, because he wasn't around to the last season. But I always liked Louis the Lilac. But Batman and Robin have barely been having the patrol or anything at all. This Batbot is doing such a good job. It's not going Terminator or anything. The only reason it ends up not working out is because the Joker and Riddler are just able to outwit it. It doesn't have the creativity to understand the deranged minds of the Joker and the Riddler, especially when they're working together. So the real Batman and Robin have to show up to take them down. And then the next story is the Penguin teaming up with Black Widow. And this Black Widow in this story, completely different from the Black Widow in the show. First off, she seems younger. Like, she's still elderly, but she's drawn to be much more attractive. Like, the Black Widow in the show is this little old lady who was very polite when she committed her crimes and stuff, and she wasn't really violent at all, except for when she had to be. Her crimes were committed very non-violently. This Black Widow is so different that I would say it's a completely different character. It would not surprise me if the old Black Widow either passed away just from like old age or was reformed, because they seemed like they were successfully reforming her at the end of her story in the show. It really did seem like they were successfully reforming her. So my headcanon is that this is a new Black Widow. Her outfit is awesome, by the way. It's incredible. It's got like these web wings and stuff. It's really cool. Like, it looks like something Vampirella would wear, but less busty. So she still seems like an older woman. Like, she's drawn with these lines on her face, kind of, and she's got silver hair. But she has a completely different attitude towards everything. Completely different personality. My headcanon is that this is someone who's taken up the mantle after the other Black Widow, let's say, reformed. I'm going to take the optimistic route and say the old Black Widow reformed successfully. I think that's a bit more in line with Batman 66's philosophies. And that this is a new Black Widow teaming up with Penguin, who Penguin eventually betrays because Batman and Robin make him think that Black Widow is going to kill him when she's done with him. Which turns out to have kind of been the truth. She was just waiting on him to betray her because she knew he would. But she was also kind of like intentionally putting him in positions to betray her to kind of confirm her own biases about men. which were kind of true, to be honest. But she has like a giant mutant Black Widow spider that they have to fight and stuff. And the ending is kind of sad. We see Black Widow like shed a tear when she's talking about, you know, Batman's optimism and stuff making him weak. And it's like, you can kind of tell she doesn't like to be the way she is. Just, she doesn't revel in it. She's never happy throughout the entire story about anything, unlike the Penguin, who is happy when their crimes go well. This is a deeply sad woman who's clearly been betrayed and treated horribly her whole life. And on just that very, very last panel, that one single tear that she doesn't let anyone know she sheds, makes you really feel and immediately understand this new Black Widow. Very well done. And then the next story is my boy Egghead, Vincent Price Egghead. He never got the attention he deserved in the show. And he was like a season 2 villain for one story, and then he only served as like a side villain for the Cossacks and Olga. And he gets his own story here, where he creates this device where he incubates in a giant egg, which puts him through like 4,000 years of evolution. So he has this incredibly hyper-intelligent mind, even beyond the normal hyper-intelligence he already had. So now he is a being that would be considered a powerful genius in 4,000 years after all this new evolution. He has this super hyper-powered psychic brain where he can manipulate reality. He can like bend items to his will, telekinesis, telepathy. He can read minds. He can change matter. He can do anything. He even devolves Batman and Robin into ape men. He calls them the Ape Crusaders. Objectively funny joke. And he goes on to commit crimes, but he thinks that their mental facilities have been impaired and that they're basically chimps, but they're not. Their mental facilities remain intact, which Batman sees as evidence that Neanderthals and stuff were smarter than we realize. But Eggman, he's going around and he's going to like Mr. Freeze's crimes, and he's like, Mr. Freeze, you dumbass. You're committing, here's everything wrong with the way you're committing this crime. And then he goes to the Riddler and he's like, hey Riddler, here's everything wrong with how you're committing this crime. I'm stealing your loot. And he steals all their loot. But Eggman has everything he could ever want. All his crimes are successful. Batman and Robin cannot stop him. But he's not having fun anymore. Eggman has become so smart and so powerful that he can't match wits with anyone anymore. He loved matching wits with Batman. Now he can't do that. He's turned Batman into an ape, and he's turned himself into a hyper-evolved being. He has no challenges in his life anymore. He's having like an existential crisis. He can't connect with anyone anymore. So the Cape Crusaders wander into his hideout and they're pretending that they have ape brains. And so he re-evolves them back into humans. They trick him into re-evolving them. And they're able to defeat him and take away his intelligence and make him back into the regular Eggman he used to be. And that makes him happy. That makes him happy that he's been defeated. Because now he can do it all over again. Now he can match wits with Batman and Robin again. He can earn it all back again. And it also gives us motivation and explanation as to when he escapes, why he won't make himself into this powerful being again, because it took away everything that motivated him. It took away everything that made him feel fulfilled. And so, as a reader, you know he's not going to do it again. It's incredible. They really thought it through. They really thought through Eggman's psychology very well in that. And there's also a cover gallery in the back with like 66 Batman-inspired covers for a lot of different books, like Action Comics and Aquaman, etc., etc., etc. But that is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. This one was only about half as long as the last one, so I kind of met my goal there. There were some details I didn't go into and whatnot, but really excellent book. I really enjoy these 66 Batman books. They're very fun. I think I would enjoy them more if they were bigger stories, you know? If we could tell some bigger stories and things like that. But remember, I think these were digital first books, so the stories are smaller, just tiny little snippets. But I think if they ever do a 66 Batman book again, which is something that probably will happen again one day, I think they still do team-up books sometimes, but if they ever do another ongoing 66 Batman, I think the best thing to do would be to give it bigger, longer story arcs. I mean, for most of the show, the stories were like 2 to 3-parter episodes. They were big stories. But the comics here only want to tell small stories. Real Season 3 sized stories. And the Season 3 stories weren't anywhere near as good. They were too small. And they had too many characters and not enough room. I like how they let Batgirl actually really do things in this book that actually really add to it. A lot of the time in the show, it was her and Batman and Robin all coming to the same conclusions, but separate, and then they'd come together in the end. Her working closer with them and giving a bit more to do on her own is nice. And all the writers and artists clearly have a lot of respect for the show. A lot of love for it. I would like bigger stories. I would like the volume to be like one big, in-depth mystery that's really fun, like the bigger multi-part episodes of the show. I would prefer that over the small little story tidbits. But I do like that these books respect a lot of the smaller 60s Batman villains. They give them a chance. Remember I said Bookworm had a big story in the last one, and I was very happy to see Bookworm. I was happy to see Eggman in this. Those little villains that never got much of the light, but had kind of a big impact on me. Especially Eggman. Oh my god, I love Eggman. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.